Hey, this is Nick with another Buildertrend tutorial. We're going to dive deeper into job costing for an open book project. Now, I have a few other videos on open book versus fixed price project. I also have a video on invoicing on an open book project. Definitely check those out. Today, we're going to talk specifically about how job costing works within Buildertrend for this newer project type that Buildertrend has added. So a little bit of review to start. What are we actually talking about here? Buildertrend embraces an open book contract. So this is gaining a little bit of steam within the industry. A lot of contractors and builders, including my own, moving a little bit away from a fixed price contract to a more open book contract, cost plus time and materials. So Buildertrend enables us to toggle our contract type within the job info. So we can tell the system that we have a new different type of contract, we're gonna do open book, and that will indicate that the job costing calculation will change based on that contract type. And the price ultimately to the customer will change as well. We have to ensure that our parameters are locked in specifically when it comes to markup for all the expenses that we incur on a project. Okay, so what is an open book contract? For one, the estimate is for budgeting purposes only. Now, it's important to note that we should still have an estimate for any project that we're going to do. This not only serves our customer by giving them an idea of what they're going to spend, but it really serves us as the builder and the remodeler to understand what our budgets are for various specific cost categories to help ensure that we can budget appropriately, we can estimate well and get better at estimating. Tracking our actuals against an estimate is a really strong thing to do for your business. The price is determined by actual costs. So we're going to estimate, but ultimately comes down to the actual cost. The builder should continue to track and monitor the budget throughout. We don't really want to just go in blind, whether it's at the onset without an estimate at all or throughout the project. We have an estimate to start. We still want to maintain that estimate and just understand, help the customer understand how are we all doing against that original estimate. Have things changed? Are we above or below our estimate? Now, change orders should still be used. They're just not as critical. A change order is not required to increase the price of a project or decrease the price of a project, but we should still use them. And the main reason for this is it helps to tell the story to our customer of why prices might be up or down based on added scope. Okay, now you shouldn't use a change order for every change in price. Something that just comes in a little above or a little under the estimate, just let that be. But if we are actually deciding to change our scope a little bit, or if we find something that's really, really surprising and a big thing that's going to impact the budget, it makes a lot of sense to document that as a change order, get the customer's approval, get their sign off, have the conversation at the moment. We agree that the revised price is going to go up. And that way, when the project is over and we're looking at here is our original estimate, here's our final price, there might be a difference. The change orders really help to tell that story, show the customer, yeah, remember we talked about this, we got approval on it, that's why our price went up. Okay. These projects are also referred to as cost plus or time and materials. So if you call them that, or if somebody else in your network does, that's the same kind of thing. The price of an open book project is the actual cost plus an agreed upon markup. So you're going to decide what that markup is, and you're going to then operate your project and see what the actual costs are, add that markup, and that will be the price to the customer. Some job costing definitions. So these are some columns that we're going to look at today with Buildertrend. You got your original budget cost, that's your original estimate. Your revised budget cost now starts to incorporate your selections and your change orders. Your committed costs, that's going to be your unapproved time clock, your unpaid PO amount. You may or may not use this too much. I will. I'm going to show you how this works. Actual costs are actual cost to date. So this is your bills within Buildertrend, your approved time clocks. There's a difference there. So it's POs go to bills, so that's committed to actual. And unapproved time clock goes to approved time clock, committed to actual. And then your QuickBooks costs as well. If you're bringing those in, those are going to be added to your actual costs. Your builder variance is anything that you incur as a cost that for whatever reason is not the customer's responsibility. So that's not going to be priced to them, yet it still is a cost for you to incur. Your projected cost takes all that stuff from above and helps and calculates really what you expect to cost for a very specific cost code. And your cost to complete takes your projected cost minus your actuals. All right, so let's see this in action within Buildertrend. The first thing we have to think about with our project is just the setup. So I'll go over that a little bit here. Our job info on the left here, I'm going to have our screen, and then we're going to play with the budget over here. I've got this as an open book project. We have to set our parameters, and that specifically means our markup. The markup is something that's going to be part of your contract. Or you're going to have that in there. You're going to say we're going to incur our costs, and then we're going to add X percentage. And we're going to update that right here in the options. Now, This can be flat across all costs that you incur, but Buildertrend has really smartly given us this variable cost type, which is so helpful for the time clock, specifically for me, because we are typically billing our labor at a higher markup. We're going to bill our labor, our carpenters, at $70 an hour, $80 an hour. They don't cost, they cost maybe $35, $40. So we're marking them up about 100%. And that's standard for the industry. We're taking on the risk of having an employee and having healthcare and all that stuff. And for that risk and resource allocation, we are going to charge a little bit more for it. Okay, so that's kind of standard. Then everything else we do, whether it's materials, equipment, subs, whatever, is going to get that 35%. Now, what should this percentage be? That's up to you and your business to figure out. 35% is a safe number for us. One thing to keep in mind here is, are we tracking every single little thing to the job or not? So what I mean by that is, if we're gassing up a vehicle on the way to a job, are we going to bill that expense to the job? If so, your markup's probably going to be a little bit less. I personally, we are not doing that. We're kind of keeping that as general overhead. That's the cost that it is to do our business. Now, of course, if a project is further away, it's going to cost a little bit more, but we're just kind of blanketing that. We're saying we have an administrative cost to run the business. That's going to be here. And these are just on project-specific costs, and that's why our markup might be a little bit higher than others, okay? So that's where the markup lives. So we have to add an estimate. Now, whether you estimate within Buildertrend or not, you have to, I would recommend always getting your estimate into Buildertrend. Okay, so I personally currently am doing some estimating on Google Sheets, and then I bring it into here. I'm going to show you a super simple estimate so that we can really clearly see the differences and the changes within all these categories here. So my estimate is really simple. I've got some framing labor, I've got rough electrical, I've got an allowance for plumbing fixtures, finish electrical here as well, and that translates to my budget over here. So without having done anything else yet, there's my budget. Now, really important to keep in mind, you have to lock your estimate at a certain point in time for the change orders and for the selections to go into revised costs versus original. If I don't lock my budget and I incur a change order before the project is locked in, so if I were to approve this change order, okay, and refresh my screen here. My revised cost goes up, that's good. If I do that with a selection though, that is not the case, okay? So if I do my selection and I haven't yet locked it in, I believe this is the case. We'll just kind of confirm this and see. I'm gonna refresh this budget here. Yeah, my plumbing fixtures has gone up. So I want to see that 4,000 was the original, but because I hadn't locked it yet with a selection, it doesn't follow through. Okay, so I'm going to undo these. And so I think that's really important when you set your allowances. Okay, you want to set them before you start making selections and lock that budget so that you can see original versus revised. If you don't do that, then your original budget's going to crank up. It's really just going to continue to increase that, okay, as you go. All right, I'm going to reset this change order as well, and then we'll kind of restart that. Okay, so everything's reset. Let me just refresh this, and we should be back to our original budgets there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this estimate. Now my revised will start taking shape. Okay, so there's my estimate. It's locked in. We kind of already saw how this is going to work. I have a change order here that there's more framing that we need to do. So the customer said, hey, how much would it cost for me to do that extra framing? I'm going to cost it here. I'm going to price it, giving a markup. Okay, and if we get approval, that should then update the revised budget cost. Okay, so let's see that in action. Now my original estimate was at 320, but my revised budget is 960. Okay, great. Selections, similar here. So if I have an allowance, right here I have a total price allowance of 5,400. Okay, if I click on that, we're going to see that that allowance is a cost of 4,000 here. So I have these two selections. Okay, I have these bath faucets. That is a cost of 3,000. And then I have the sink that is a cost. Now you hear me kind of emphasizing cost versus price. There's my cost, then I have my markup, that's my price. So if I approve those two items here, then we're going to see that our that's $4,500 in cost, that our revised price should update to $4,500, not $4,000. All right. Now, really important here is great, that's $4,500, that's good. If one of these wasn't selected yet, and meaning I have an open allowance, like an allowance that isn't closed yet, right? Because like there's still some openings here. Buildertrend doesn't know any better, so it's going to assume, yeah, I've got that, 3,000 here. It's going to assume that the other one I'm going to do is going to be the 1,000. It doesn't know any better yet. So it's not until I approve this one that will be updated. Okay. And of course I can go lower too. If we finish out an allowance that goes lower, in fact, I can even do that after the fact. Let me do that. Let me change this to $500. Okay. That's going to update to be a lower expected cost, $3,500 there. Okay. And notice that as the revised budget cost increases, then so does our projected cost, so does then our revised owner price. Our revised owner price is going to be our total projected cost less any builder variance multiplied by that markup. Okay, so that's starting to take shape, looks really good. Let's talk now about some committed costs, some actual costs as well. I have in here in my estimate, I've got rough electric and finish electric. So a really good best practice is to have some purchase orders existing within your template. And I have those. If I go to my purchase orders here, I like to build these into my template. And the main reason is I can connect them to a schedule item. So there's my placeholder electrical purchase order that I've created, and it's tied to my electrical. That looks awesome. And now I can take these two items, this electrical rough, this electrical finish. I can add to an existing purchase order. I'm sorry, right here. Okay. Take those two line items and say I want to add those to the electric purchase order. Okay. Now I can go to that purchase order. All right. So that exists, $10,000, 500 purchase order. Now I haven't approved it yet. It's just a purchase order that's there for approval. It's not anything else yet. Let me adjust the pricing on this a little bit. So I have nothing in committed costs. Actually, I won't. Let me approve it. I'm going to manually approve this purchase order, and that should now populate my committed costs. We're kind of saying I'm expecting to spend this much. Now I've got a purchase order that both myself and the contractor agree is the price. Now it's committed costs. Okay? It's committed costs until I have actual bills or QuickBooks costs, okay? Now, if I were to tweak this a little bit, let's say that my contractor gets back to me and like, hey, you know what? Your rough electric is actually only $5,000, okay? No need to execute a change order necessarily. We've gone through, we've done the exercise. We know how much it's going to cost now. Now it's $5,000 in total of $9,500. And so there we can see our committed cost is coming in lower. Now, guess what? Buildertrend sees the committed costs, but my original and revised budget is $6,000. It assumes I got another $1,000 to spend, and that's why the projected cost hasn't changed here. And I don't blame them for that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I might have some other PO or some other bill that is going to fill that void, so it's being conservative here and saying that we don't know any better than that right now. Your committed cost is lower. That's interesting, but right now we don't know that to be different, okay? Now that's going to stay as committed costs until I take that purchase order and we create bills on it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do bill remaining. I'm just going to do one single bill for this whole thing. And I'm just going to save that. And once I save that bill, now we're going to see that committed cost go over to actual costs. Okay, so there's my 5,000. It moves over to 5,000 right here. Okay, so that is how the whole thing moves from original budget to revised to committed to actual. Okay, now once I mark this complete, this is where Buildertrend's getting really, really smart. Right now, it's guessing that I'm going to spend a total of $6,000. Let me collapse this and just open this one up. It thinks that I'm going to spend a total of $6,000. It doesn't know any better. I've spent $5,000 so far. It doesn't know that I'm done. Now, I could execute a change order to say negative $1,000. I could do that, but that doesn't really make sense for a small amount like that. Once I'm complete with it, that's when Buildertrend knows, all right, well, if we're done spending on it, that means that 5,000 is my total. That means that 5,000 is my projected. My cost to complete goes to zero. I'm $1,000 under. My original owner price was $8,100. My revised owner price is $6,750. I can toggle this on or off. You can see that cost to complete is 1,000 here. If I were to write a change order for a negative 1,000, this would all go to 0. I could do that, but it depends, how much time you have. Are we certain that we're done here? Then we can click the I'm done here, and that's going to do that. Okay, so that's how those actuals work. Now, let's go into this labor that I have here. And on finished plumbing, you can see here, my revised budget is here. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. And then finished electrical is the same kind of thing. Now that one happens to be the exact same, so that's not going to come out as anything different. Let's do some labor. So I got some labor estimates in here. And I want to show you how labor flows. I currently have no actual costs yet. So on this other screen, I'm going to add some time clock. Okay, so we should be using time clock in BT. I definitely recommend it. I think it's an amazing feature. So I'm going to record a shift. I'm going to record that shift for myself. I'm going to just do like 8 hours. Okay, cost code, I'm going to put in demo labor or framing labor. Now this cost is going to come from user defaults. Okay, now this is an area where by project it might have to adjust a little bit, right? You're always adjusting your rates for your employees, so this is something you might have to play with a little bit. Now, I've kind of evolved on this. I used to be really specific and say like, well, an employee cost me 25 bucks an hour. I had 9% for taxes. I had 20% for workers' comp. I had 5% for admin. And now this employee cost me $42.36. And I used to be really specific with that. And then I got to the point where I was like, it's really hard for me to manage that and manage that change. I'm going to round it up a little bit to be a round number. And then this plus my 100% markup gives me the rate that the customer has agreed to pay. That way, if I give the employee a raise during the project, I don't have to change the rate to the customer. That looks bad, right? I can just kind of absorb it with the fact that I've rounded this rate up a little bit. So I'm going to record that shift. I'm going to refresh my budget. Now, I have not approved that shift yet. So management has not gone in and approved that. So this is where it shows up as a committed cost. And then it's once I approve it or once the appropriate team member approves that shift, that labor cost moves over. Okay, now let me refresh that. Okay, so that has moved over now to an actual cost. Notice that my projected cost hasn't changed. Buildertrend does not know any better. I haven't spent above this yet. If I did, so I can just reset this here and just make it just a super long shift that's going to go way over. If I did this, my committed costs are going to jump up here. Now my projected costs go over. Whenever we go over our revised budget costs, then that is when the projected costs will make sense. Now I'm going to approve that time shift. Okay. And when I approve that, it's going to move to actual costs, and I can mark this whole thing complete to say I'm done spending here. All right. Now the revised owner price, this is where it's going to come in that, we have this shift, 40 bucks an hour with that 100% markup gives me my price there. Okay. Plus or minus any other additional items there. All right, so this job costing budget is so useful. As I mentioned, I do think that they could get a little bit better at giving me maybe a difference between the two here, or maybe showing a little bit more easily where some of the changes have come from. But it's all there, and as long as you know the calculations and how everything works, this is a really amazing feature for you as the business owner, as the person managing this, and for your customers, so they can understand, hey, what was our estimate? What caused us to change that estimate because we agreed to do things differently, to buy expensive stuff or to do some extra work. And then where do I come out with my revised price? Okay. And that's going to be so helpful for everybody involved. Let me know if you have questions on this. I'll admit that this is a little bit confusing, all these different columns. I think Buildertrend would admit that too, but I think they got it all there. And it's just a matter of getting some usability in there and maybe making some tweaks. But let me know your questions on this or anything in this entire series on Buildertrend. We're going to keep cranking on this. So I want to know what you want to learn to help inform my next videos. And I will see you on my next video.